You know, there's a lot going on in the sports world in the state of Wisconsin. That your main man, T Squared, that's who I be. This is Toss. Should be talking about. Should be talking about the NFL draft that gets started on Thursday as we record this program on a Wednesday. Should be talking about the Milwaukee Brewers and the kind of team that they're working to be. A couple games above 500 as we speak. We should be talking about some other news in the sports world, nationally. Because you know I like to keep my eye on things. But instead, for the umpteenth time in Milwaukee Bucks playoff history, recent history, in the first round, I now have to sit here with all of you, and thank you for joining us. I now have to sit here and talk about the Milwaukee Bucks being on the brink. We are 2 games into this series, the 4-5 series in the Eastern Conference, NBA playoffs, second straight season, or postseason, I should say, that you have gone against the Indiana Pacers. And it is now the second straight postseason you've been put on the brink by these guys. They are fixing to pack you up. Game 1 was just a flat-out embarrassment. Nobody other than Giannis showed up. You didn't have Dame. You knew there was a great chance that you would have him for Game 2 at that point. Prayers up for him. Thank goodness he came back from that blood clot. And that situation is cleared up. Those are no joke. But you knew you were not going to have him for Game 1. There was a good chance you were going to have him for Game 2. You proceeded to trot out those kinds of rotations if you're Doc Rivers. If you call that being a doctor, I think you're going to get sued for malpractice. This is the playoffs, and these are the rotations that you have. You've got a guy in Kyle Kuzma who has a Tony Snell game in the playoffs, a guy that you traded a franchise legend for, and Chris Middleton. And he goes out and puts up those kinds of numbers. And it didn't get any better for him in Game 2. He didn't score his first points of the series until 5+ quarters in. He didn't get his first basket till nearly 6 quarters into the series. And I say 5+ and nearly 6 because at 5+, he got 2 free throws, his first points of the series. He didn't score his first field goal until nearly the end of the second quarter in Game 2. Nearly 6 quarters of action, and this dude can't make a bucket. You look at all the advanced stats, you see that he is good for the team defensively, but you could have fooled me. At one point in Game 2, the Pacers were hitting over 84% of their shots. Rotations were non-existent. Nobody's moving and sliding their feet. Nobody's able to get into position. This is all you saw in game one. You got the brakes beat off of you. In game one, you allowed the Pacers. And I warned everybody, the Pacers are better than you think. This is a team that finally came together. They were injured early on. They were a little bit inconsistent because of those injuries. They got healthy at the right time, and now you're seeing it. This is a good young team. And you allow them to gain confidence, which is one thing you don't want a young team to do. And they absolutely dog walked you in game one. It was flat out embarrassing. Nobody showed up in game one with the exception of Giannis and, you know what, maybe Gary Trent. I believe he went, 5 for 11 from the field, 6 for 11 from the field. This is the cadence of the Bucks this season. They started off the season horribly. Then they became one of the, if not the hottest team in the entire association. And then they came back to earth. Struggled. Then they got to another hot streak. Then they struggled. Then they got to a hot streak. And this is also why I said on this very program that I was a little bit worried about that 8-game winning streak to close the regular season. Because maybe they spent up all that time being in a good stretch of basketball that you're now going to see an ugly stretch coming up in the worst possible time in the playoffs. And here we are. Bucks returning to Milwaukee down 0-2. Game 2, they showed a little bit more fight. It seemed as if more guys showed up to work. Again, they're not stopping Giannis. They don't have an answer for Giannis other than to try to ring him around the neck. I put out on threads at the20double. You can follow me there. The Detroit Pistons had the Jordan rules. Apparently the Pacers have the Giannis rules. Because they are trying to beat this dude up in every way possible anytime he goes into the lane. They have no answer for Giannis. You get Dame back. I mentioned on my social media channels, hey, I am going to this with great trepidation. I am curtailing my expectations of what he's going to be able to give in his first game back in over a month and how long he will play. Again, 14 points. Made a big three in that fourth quarter when the Bucks had a kind of a false rally, I guess. Bobby Portis showed up. Nice to see you. He had 28. Giannis 34, 18, and 7. Again, they have no answer for him. And it's not as if the stats were completely skewed in the way for Indiana. I mean, you look at overall field goal percentage, Bucks shot 50% in game 2. Pacers shot 48%. Three-pointers may have something to do with it. Bucks hit 40% of their shots from 3 in game 2. The Pacers, 44%. Free throw percentages were huge. 19 for 19 for the Pacers. 13 and 19 for the Bucks. So it's not as if the game was called one way. You got the same amount of free throws. Those points, you couple those in with the couple more three-point baskets that the Pacers made, and there's your game. That's the difference. That's 8 points. Rebounding advantage went to Milwaukee. Fast break points went to Milwaukee. Pacers had a slight edge with assist. Steals, that was won by the Pacers, 8-3. Blocks, won by Milwaukee, 6-3. Offensive rebounds, 12-7 in favor of Milwaukee. Defensive rebounds were tied, 31 apiece for both teams. Big story of the game, points off of turnovers. Milwaukee 5, the Pacers 15. I mean, this game was a lot closer, and the Bucks showed a lot more fight. But it's the free throw line. It's the lazy rotations or lack thereof of the rotations to three-point shooters that made the difference in the game. Doc Rivers comes out, his post-game presser, and I'm paraphrasing, but I'm confident. I am not worried about being down 0-2. I'm confident about this series. What else is the head coach supposed to say about his team, especially in the playoffs? What were people expecting him to say? Doc's been around long enough. He's been through the playoff wars many a times to know that this is not a time to call your team soft. This is not a time to call them out publicly. And that's not something you want to make a habit of doing anyway. But especially at this point in the season. But what were people expecting Doc Rivers to say? Man, I'm really worried about being down 0-2, and that is, I'm just questioning everything. That may be the most honest answer, but he's not going to tell you. He's not going to put it out there for public consumption. Giannis comes out in his post-game presser. And again, I'm paraphrasing. But he says, I know the deal. He really said, I know the effing deal, but I'm not going to say that. But there are problems I have with both of these statements by both Rivers and Giannis. With Rivers, it just appears that he has no answers. A wealth of basketball knowledge, a wealth of experience and coaching. He's won a championship. He's been through many awards. He's gotten teams from down here to being actual contenders. But as of late, it's just been playoff failure after playoff failure after playoff failure with some serious talent. Bucks have the best shooting around Giannis that they have ever had. This team led the NBA in three-point percentage. And you can't figure out how to get consistent offense. The other problem that I have with Doc Rivers was at the end of game one in his press conference. Oh, we just got to get Kyle Kuzma the ball. We got to get him involved and drop some plays for him. What? Stop it. That right there should have been a disqualifying statement. Disqualifying statement right there. That got me just heated hearing that. I know you don't want to pull the plug on a guy, especially they have a rough game. You know, he basically was out there doing cardio. I get it. You don't want to curtail that confidence, especially in the playoffs. I understand it. You could have just said he had a rough day. I've got to be better. We have to put him in the position to succeed. I maybe would have worded it differently. But I'm not Doc Rivers. And to say that this is a guy that you want to draw plays for, get him more involved, no, you don't. You obviously need him. You traded for him. He needs to be able to give you something offensively, but more so defensively and rebounding, his length. Get that from him. You're not going to make him a focal point and draw up some plays so he can until he can get involved. No. He was awful game one. He wasn't much better in game two. It's these things, and you see the results of the teams that he's been on, that he's been the head coach of, and their shortcomings in the playoffs. And again, there's only going to be one champion. 15 teams are going to fall. But when it's your team that you're the head coach of, that we're consistently seeing the same mistakes, the same habits, the same things occurring time and time again, that's when the groundswell starts to get higher. That's when the noise starts to get louder. That's why people point and say, you know what? I mean, this guy's been milking one championship for how long? Has done nothing of substance since. And I'm not saying I'm saying that. But it's hard to ignore the proof. And Bucks fans are now seeing it up close. And there's a certain segment of the Bucks fans who are just delusional. Nothing's really going to make them happy. But then there's the other segment who have common sense. And they're seeing this up close. And they've heard everything and saw things about Doc. They saw Doc's teams. Clippers, Sixers. They've seen the shortcomings in the playoffs, and now it's like all of those events that happened with those teams that he's at the head of now appear to be happening with the Bucks. I can't sit here and say that I saw a whole lot to be confident about. Again, the Bucks showed more fight in game 2 than they did in game 1. Free throws, three-pointers. There's your game right there. You rotate better. Prevent a couple of those threes. Giannis doesn't miss crucial free throws in the second half, which is where all of his misses came. And it's a different story. It's a 1-1 series, but unfortunately, that's not the case. You're letting the Pacers talk to you. You're talking back. And look, I'm okay with a little bit of tenseness in a series between two teams. You're tired of seeing them. You got beef with them. They packed y'all up last season. They're up 2-0 now. I don't have a problem with all that, but y'all need to keep the focus on the court and getting better and overcoming the shortcomings of that Doc is bringing to the squad. Rotation-wise, mental chess-wise. Again, he said he's confident. Maybe he sees something that I don't. Maybe he has his finger on the pulse of the team in a different way than I do. I'm pretty sure of it. But pouring over that tape, and I've watched this game a couple times now. I really didn't see a whole lot to be truthfully excited about. Some guys need to understand that this is the playoffs and they actually need to show up. When that happens, and Doc's got to kind of cut his rotations a little bit. Certain guys should not be getting any clock. I said clock. Shouldn't be getting any run, any clock in this series. He needs to be making a really difficult decision. And it really should be difficult. If you go back and look at the tape the way I did, there are certain guys who do not need to be on the court in this series. And there's some guys that do. They're going to give you a different look defensively. Just going to have to make some tough decisions. We'll see if he does that in game 3. So that's my beef with Doc. Now, with Giannis' statement, it's not so much that I have a problem with him saying that. He knows the deal. He's proven it. He's walking it. My problem is I don't think that other guys know the deal. Maybe Dame does. He's just getting back. So I can't put anything on him. Bobby showed up in game 2. Where were you game 1? Gary Trent, where are you? Decent game 1, game 2, meh. AJ Green, where are you? Why is Andre Jackson not in this series? I get it. Offense-wise, he's not quite where you want him to be, but defensively he is. Why is he not out there giving your defense a different look? He's far more athletic. He can move a little bit better than, let's say, a TP, Taurean Prince. Where are you? This is playoff basketball. The brightest lights, the biggest stages. And through 2 games, I'm seeing that for some guys, it is just too much. I don't understand how you don't show up to the playoffs. I don't understand how for many seasons you've made certain mistakes and you continue to do so. And now you can't call them mistakes. These are habits. And they're bad habits. If you're Doc Rivers. You've allowed the Pacers, a young team, to get confidence and to get comfortable. They're chirping at you. They're making all the plays. They're shooting an otherworldly percentage, although that did come down in game 2 a bit. But the way they started off, they got so far ahead of you. You didn't stand a chance. They went wire to wire. Game 3 on Friday in Milwaukee. You cannot just solely rely on your home crowd. Guys need to show up. Guys need to learn the deal. Doc needs to get out of these bad habits and make the tough decisions because he's the head coach. This is what he's paid for. Otherwise, you're down 0-3. Pacers have all but finally packed you up. I don't give a damn about there being 4 more games potentially. This team goes down 0-3 they're not coming back. And if that is the case, certain guys shouldn't be back either.